Welcome to Word on the Block, the series that takes a deeper dive into the emerging technology that shapes our world. AI, IoT, 5G, blockchain at the intersection of business, politics, and economy. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forkast.News, and welcome to the show. I'd like to welcome to the show right now David Toman, who is one of the leaders in AI when it comes to UAE's artificial intelligence program, really helping lead that on behalf of University of Oxford. He's a visiting fellow, Kellogg University, University of Oxford. And David, welcome to the show.
Oh, good morning. How are you, Angie?
Absolutely fine. Look, I wanted to get you on because AI is certainly a hot button topic, issue, certainly for the past couple of years. And it seems to be accelerated now in a post-COVID world. We have seen digital transformation and digital adoption by corporations really speed up in light of COVID-19. AI is one of the central themes when it comes to thinking about digital transformation. AI, big data, analytics, these are all buzzwords that corporates are considering right now. If they're not implementing it, they're thinking about it. But really, I want to take a very candid look at this technology. You know, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. And at the end of the day, what can it really do? So if we could just start off with asking from my side a very dumb question. What is AI and what can corporates do with it?
I think AI is a lot of things to a lot of people. What it really is a technology that's been around for about 100 years. It's been there in terms of it's blown hot, it's blown cold, but it's really a way to almost emulate the human brain. It's a way for us to use a means to reach into from our own history, our own past, our own thinking, and really creating that, trying to recreate that from a computer point of view. Now that's a very, very overly simplified way of doing it, but what it is a sort of probably an agglomeration of various technologies that come together to probably make things different for our real world today. That's what it's trying to do.
And a lot of us think about it as artificial intelligence, but really I think I did an interview with an AI scientist who explained it like this. It really is the illusion of intelligence. It's really just speeding up the functionalities in a very practical way, but just really speeding it up so that it looks like it's intelligence. But really, it's machine programming by man, by woman, by humankind. And that therein lies really a critical issue, I think, for corporates. How do we use this technology to speed up the functionality and create efficiencies, but then also what happens next?
It is, but it's sort of, it's one of a series of technologies that come through. And again, it's used as a coverall. At the moment, the current state of affairs we have is AI is relatively dumb. It is relatively, it's a long way from this sort of nirvana that people reach out to in terms of it will solve everything. There are still significant steps to be taken. And AI in the true sense may not happen for another 10, 15 years. And in fact, if you look at the past of the history of AI, it's blown hot and cold. There have been AI dawns, there have been AI winters, and this is the latest AI dawn. Whether that then progresses into an AI winter, it can be seen. The two critical things that have happened, I think, are in terms of AI, are the ability for us to process data and the ability for us to hold data. So those two things have actually enabled us to move into a different space entirely. The problem with it still is it's relatively dumb. It still can be very, very linear. It can still be very constrained, not only by the technology and the programming side of it, but also the ethics side and legal. And those are two areas that we really haven't got into yet. And that is the constraint as we move forward.
Okay, let's talk about ethics and legal. We are in a world right now that is experiencing privacy issues and tracking when it comes to coronavirus. We have nations that, on the basis of public health, really infringing on individual rights. And then we have protest movements really around the world. And so, and charges of discrimination and racism and unconscious bias that truly exists. But if it's people who are the ones who are programming AI and the thinking behind this technology, what must we think about when it comes to ethics and legalities that we perhaps haven't thought about yet?
I think people see, I'm sitting here in Oxford, 20 miles north of Oxford, and yesterday we had a series of protests about the road statue outside Oriel College in Oxford. And that just shows you the depth of strength of feeling, and quite rightly so, about Black Lives Matter movement, and also the injustices of the colonial past of the UK in particular. I think AI almost like falls into that same sort of context where it's being done out with us, not with us. AI is seen to to many people a black box. It's where a series of very clever programmers sit. They create a computer program. What goes into it. It might be your personal data. It might be where you're walking. It may be who you're speaking to. It may be recording what you're speaking to. And at the end, we have some sort of, what is seen to be some sort of great global good. And that creates a real challenge for governments around the world to be able to respond to that. If you look at the level of trust for governments, it ranges from, on one side, places like the UAE, where the trust in government is extremely strong, and people are prepared to trust government, and again, rightly so, to actually deliver a AI product which is for the greater good. If you ask the same question to, if I walk out into the street here and ask someone on the Isle of Wight who are testing the National Health Service in the UK's app for coronavirus, there's a great deal of suspicion. There's a great deal of angst. And just to develop the point a bit further, that black box is inherently dangerous. Unless you know what's happening within that black box, you are going to run into problems both from a corporate point of view and an individual point of view. So that's the kind of the crux of the problem we have.
We cover blockchain and decentralization and distributed ledger technology a lot on Forkast News. And, that seems to be a technology that is often married to AI and big data. As we expand this conversation about and thinking about ethics and privacy and how really as a community we can contribute to AI instead of a singular voice or a singular number of voices in a centralized way, could this be a potential part of the thinking that needs to be embraced from the AI community?
I think the AI community kind of a tendency to be slightly secretive about what's going on and what's happening within the community. The drive for technology is so strong, and the desire to beat the competition from a corporate point of view sometimes blurs the line about where are we going to go to. What happens when we crack the technology? We have this wonderful product that we've produced, but we produced it in this black box environment where, well, no one trusts it. No one says, this is great, fantastic, well done, here's the technology. There's a lovely anecdote in terms of a very similar situation where the first virtual landing was made at Heathrow Airport. And it's a British Airways flight. The pilot came in, very foggy day at Heathrow, which is not particularly unusual, landed the plane fully automatically, and the captain turned around the crew, so just like to thank all the passengers and crew, this is a fantastic landing, fully automated. And one of the first class passengers said, that's not what I'm paying for. It's a real PR, because again, the technology had left in front of what the customers and what the clients and what the person in the street actually wanted to do. And there's a danger if we let AI run in that same direction, we'll have that person or the community, the populace saying, what on earth are you doing? Well, you've created a monster, you've created something which we don't believe in, we don't want, and we don't trust.
And so then how transparent, do you have to be, when you're running your artificial intelligence program on behalf of University of Oxford and UAE, and you're trying to integrate this technology, and sure, you're working with a government where its people trusts it, the trust level is quite high, but at the same time, you still need to build in a foundation of communication. How are you integrating some of these things that we're talking about, even practically, in your day-to-day?
I work with a really bunch of talented academics and doctoral researchers at Oxford, from people like Dr. Mehdi, who's one of the go-to people in terms of researching in terms of real estate, through to Professor Howard at the Oxford Internet Institute. They're the people who feed into the course, amongst many others within Kellogg College. One of the things we do is actually make sure we force the bridge between, on one side, technology people who are very desperate to be left alone and develop the AI, develop the solutions, prove that they've developed some fantastic AI solutions, which is great. And on the other side, you have a series of managers, people like that I was 10 years ago in BP, where you think, we'll let the techies run away and do their thing. And all of a sudden, again, they produce something which doesn't work. So what we do is with our colleagues and friends in the Ministry of AI within the UAE, is bring those two factions, two wings, two tribes, as it were, together, and say to the managerial and executive team, you're going to have to learn a little bit about the technology. You're going to have to learn a little bit about Python programming. You're going to have to learn a little bit about RapidMiner, so you can get inside and ask the right questions, get inside the minds of your programming staff and your external suppliers, and deliver a solution to you and your business, or to the community at large, that actually will deliver something. And then on the other side, an equally challenging situation where our technical folks are saying, we don't care about the ethics, we don't care about the legal, all we're concerned about is delivering a fantastic AI product. But between the two, we bring them together and force them to think about ethics from one side, and from the other side to think about and actually physically program. And one of the key things His Excellency Omar Al-Alama pushed on us as a college is to say, I want everyone to be able to come away with a little bit of programming knowledge. A little bit might be dangerous, but nonetheless, it's an insight into the other tribe world.
Well, you're basically baking in empathy. You're basically baking in, walk a mile in my shoes, to create a team dynamic that hopefully can elevate a product. You touched upon legality. That's another thing that few people think about when it comes to AI. What are the red flags or red issues that we should be aware of as we really kind of saunter into the second half of this year, still reeling and still dealing with COVID-19 realities?
It's a sort of saunter, it's a drift, it's interesting. Use of red flag is great. I mean, the analogy there is that when cars started to be produced in the UK, people were very frightened. People would drive down in their wonderful new shiny Fords or Buicks, or actually probably in the UK it wasn't, three General Motors and Daimlers, and certainly Fords as well in there somewhere. But people were very frightened of that new emerging technology. Great analogy for the AI world. And the government then legislated for someone to walk in front of those cars with a red flag to basically make sure that you couldn't go any faster than walking pace, so constrain the technology. And as we move into this AI world, the danger from a legal point of view is that government will actually respond to their population and say, hang on a second, we're going to have someone walking in front of this technology again with that physical red flag to slow the ability for that to be implemented. So unless we address those legal issues and legislative issues, that's what's going to happen. Someone's going to walk out with a red flag and say, stop, you cannot progress any further. And unless you understand that, you're going to have problems. The exact analogy is cars again. So instead of walking in front of a Ford through the streets of Oxford, is something from one of the big IT companies or big AI companies developing driverless cars. Are saying, okay, fine, that's wonderful. You've developed these great technologies. There's been a couple of issues in terms of sadly people have as a result of this, again, creates tension and concern in the population, exactly as it did 100 years ago when cars were first invented. But then, who's liable if that driverless car kills someone? Is it the owner of the car? Is it the car company? Is it the people who develop the software? And until that is actually solved, you can do as much technology as you like, but the technology will not progress. And people will put in a block, an artificial, political, or emotional block that may delay the implementation of AI for many, many, many years. That's the danger.
Well, it's just really interesting that, we went from talking about the technology, which we've been talking about for a while now, and it's matured to a stage where now we're realizing the social impact. So we're talking about the ethical issues, the ideologies behind even the integration of AI, and then the legalities, as you've rightfully pointed out. I think as we wrap up this conversation, for those corporates and professionals in industries, across industries, how should corporates and global firms in the stage of digital transformation that they're in now be thinking about AI? How has it changed business logic, and what do they need to do aside from the things that we talked about, ethics and legality? What do they need to be thinking about that's different, that they might not have thought about in a pre-COVID world?
I think COVID's been great, has basically taken out bandwidth for the corporate boards. And I work for a large corporation called BP, who had an existential issue in terms of the Gulf of Mexico disaster. That took away every piece of management's additional thinking time for many, many, many years, really, in terms of, until recovery took really 10 years from the incident through to now, a decent place to be in. And the same thing happens with COVID, I think, where my friends who are still sitting in a corporate chief executive's office are sitting there just trying to survive. And the danger is that throw the problem about, faster retail, faster picking any AI technology into the IT department and say, look, just get on with it. We don't want to know. We're too busy. Get on with it. That will be completely fatal. You've got to spend the time understanding what you're actually asking people to do. AI is a corporate bandwagon to a certain extent. It's the latest buzzword as you started this conversation, Angie. It's it's blockchain, it's big data, it's AI. Let's chuck another one in. What does it mean to us as a business? What is the business? What benefit are we going to get? So what I would actually counsel people to do is actually firstly understand the business, getting people involved who are business process people, and then understanding what your business process gap is before you start throwing vast amounts of corporate dollar at a solution which may not work and it's actually not fit for your business. It's great to tick a corporate box. It's better to make more money for your shareholders.
Well, you're totally right. The bandwidth of thinking may be stretched thin, but this absolutely right. Can't be ignored. There's too much at stake. It's every one of our lives that are at stake, the impact that it will have on our privacy and all the rest. So this is a critical conversation, and I thank you for it, David. Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of Word on the Block. David, I bid you adieu, and thank you everyone for joining us as well. I'm Angie Lau, Forkast.News Editor-in-Chief. Until the next time. You know what I'm going to say here, right? Like, comment, subscribe. We hope you do. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau, Forkast News. Subscribe for a lot more in-depth conversations. This is what we do for you every day. And here's the next one.